generally you are going to be your biggest critic. When you want to foster like these success mindset, there's a delicate balance between leveraging these expectations that you have on yourself to accomplish these goals, but also giving yourself the space and understanding to know when something is insurmountable and you have to give yourself that leeway to allow yourself to like step away from that goal or like extend that timeline. Burnout is primarily psychological. A lot of it is just the pressure that you put on yourself to achieve these outcomes. The way you adapt and respond is really like the biggest thing that you can take control of.
All right, welcome to the Fit Vegan Podcast. I'm your show host, Maxime Sigouin, and I'm the founder and CEO of Fit Vegan Coaching, a company that is on a mission to help 10,000 people get lean, thrive, and reduce their risk of chronic illnesses by 2033 and 1 million by 2050. I believe that having a fit, healthy body and mind is the foundation to living an incredible life, and this is what the show will give you if you choose to listen and implement. Enjoy the episode and have a great day. All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Fit Vegan Podcast. Today, we have a very special episode because we are welcoming a new Fit Vegan coach to our family, and he's a dear friend of mine, Mr. Nick Patenaude. Nick, how you doing, man?
Good. Having a great time. Full as loving that we're hanging out right now, too. The dog
Yeah, we got a little bit of background music. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. She's just so excited for this.
So for those of you that are kind of new to the podcast or have been listening to the podcast for a while, Nick will be one of our Fit Vegan coaches that you'll have the ability to work with. We're going to dive into Nick's story, his coaching philosophy, and kind of how he does things. But I just want to preface that, like, I've known Nick for many, many years, for over 7 years, for sure, around 7 years. Nick was the first one that started training me for my triathlon and half Ironman races. He's been my only coach for Ironman and triathlon races. And now he's helping me with this new goal that I have, if you guys have been watching on YouTube, of, you know, being able to dunk a basketball a certain way and all these fun goals that I have. And so I've known Nick for a long time. I've trusted him with my training for many, many years. So I feel very blessed to be able to bring him on to the team. So Nick, welcome to the team, man. And if you want to just get started as to like, what I'm curious, actually, I don't think we ever talked about this, but what came first, fitness or veganism?
They were actually they were very tied to each other. Yeah, very, very close. The timeline is very blurred, and not just in my mind, but chronologically as well. Like I didn't grow up like fit like you did. Like I never played sports or anything. I didn't start physical activity until like grade 12. So that was my inception point into like fitness. And that was mostly like with running and like trying to lose weight to feel more comfortable in my body. And then as I got more healthy, I wouldn't say like athletic at that point yet, but as I got like more healthy and fit, I started exploring other avenues, and that's when the like cutting out red meat started to come in, and then I started cutting out like chicken, and then I was working at a sushi bar, so I was only eating fish, and then I eventually cut that out, and I was the only vegetarian working at a sushi bar, and yeah, it just like rolled on from there. But that was when I was like 18, 19. So
what was the initial idea behind cutting out red meat and cutting out the chicken?
Yeah, I mean, cutting out the meat was pretty much just health-based. Like as I started to explore more of like ways that I could optimize my health. This is all stemming from like a biology teacher. She wasn't vegetarian or anything, but we were talking about health, and for some reason, health just like clicked in my head that like, oh, I'm kind of chubby. I don't feel like good about my body. I think the two are related. Maybe if I lost weight, I could be healthier, and if I was healthier, I'd be happier, and that whole like scenario. And so yeah, as I explored, like red meat in particular was like the first thing that I cut, just purely based on like anecdotal evidence at that time. This is like 2008, I guess, and I wasn't very literate in research and in reading and digesting research, and there weren't any like podcasts or anything about like people talking about this. There were some like BBC news articles and like the occasional pop sci article that red meat was not optimal for your health. Still great contention around that, obviously. But yeah, I was just reading those and just decided, man, I should probably cut out red meat. And it felt great. Like I had the same amount of energy. I won't say I had more energy cutting out red meat, but I had the same amount. I didn't notice a difference. The only difference that I noticed was socially hanging out with friends. But I still ate chicken at the time, so I could go to wing night. So I wasn't totally socially ostracized at that point. But that was, and then cutting out red meat just became a slippery slope. Yeah. Oh, exactly. Yeah. I mean, now everybody, I mean, we go to so many restaurants now and it's not even nobody even blinks an eye, but it was definitely weird in high school being like the only dude who was vegetarian. I think there was one other guy who was vegetarian, but he was like the surfer hippie bro. So
so basically it's been roughly like 16 years that you've been vegan. So it was 2008.
2008 is when I started going like vegetarian. I wasn't vegan until like 2019. It was 2019 or 2020. I don't remember. But it was my ex's birthday, the morning after her birthday, and it was either her 19th or her 20th birthday.
So like 14, 15 years roughly. So it's been a while. It's been longer than I have.
Yeah. It's been a minute. It's been a minute.
So basically a lot of the physical accomplishments that you've done have been on a plant-based lifestyle because you started to get in shape and then you went vegan.
Yeah, I hadn't even heard about triathlon until after I went plant-based. And I actually heard about it because of a plant-based athlete, Brendan Brazier, who's from Vancouver.
Yeah.
I've
seen him run a few times in downtown. Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, dude. He's a funny dude. He's in LA now, right? Like he lives there or
I've seen him a bunch of time at the Gold's Gym in Venice.
Oh, sweet. That's awesome. Yeah. I totally forgot that he was there, but yeah, that makes sense. I haven't seen him in years.
That's the thing that brought you into kind of triathlon, which if from what I know, it kind of took over your life for many, many years. Do you know how many races you've done since you started?
Not a chance. I mean, I'm also very on the opposite end of the spectrum of like tracking those sorts of things diligently. If I went back, I could probably tell you, but off the top of my 50? Head, I don't know.
Over 100. For sure over 100.
I don't think so. I mean, it's probably less than 100, more than 50. Yeah. 100 just seems like a big number and probably only doing like
you do a lot of races.
Maybe 5 to 10 a year for a hot minute, but it's tough doing a lot of like mostly what I do now is like 70.3, like half iron distance, and that's like 2 a year right now tops. And then if I do an Ironman, which I've only done the one, technically only one, like that's like I'm not doing more than one a year, maybe.
Yeah, for sure. They're hard on the body.
Yeah, exactly. I also don't do a lot of racing anymore. Racing was mostly in my like early 20s.
Well, you don't call it racing, but you will do a race and then you're going to kick everyone else's butt who is actually racing because that's how fast you are.
Yeah. Like, I swim, bike, run all the time. Yeah. But like, I don't show up there to win. Like,
But you kick some butt because, man, I've biked with you and you can bike hard for a very long time.
Oh yeah. I can motor. Yeah. Today was like a nice 2.5 hour ride. Yesterday was a 3-hour ride. The day before that was another like 3-hour ride.
Yeah. And so just for the people listening, like obviously you have a big background in kind of the world of endurance sports, but do you mind kind of sharing like your credentials and the schooling that you went through because you have other areas of expertise besides just triathlon?
Yeah, totally. So my undergraduate is in a super obscure, it's sport and fitness leadership. There's 2 streams of this degree, and I'm in the exercise and wellness stream. I started off in organic chemistry and biotechnology, so I started off in hard sciences. However, through failing statistics and being on this like upward swing of triathlon in my life, I then transferred into a program that was athletic therapy, which is injury assessment and rehabilitation. 2 years of that. Yeah. Then from there, I decided I don't like being in a clinic. Took another swing into an adjacent field. This time I did sport and fitness leadership, which is broadly speaking more around like the sociological implications of training people. So it was more based around working with general population athletes and helping people work through some of the like psychological, social, and physical components of health and wellness, which my stream was health and wellness. So that's where I was working through. And that undergrad was pretty much a 4-year degree of how to be a really good personal trainer. So how do you read literature? How do you apply the science? Getting a broad perspective on different training styles and modalities so that you're not caught in the like T-Nation style of like bodybuilding. Or anyways, so that was that program that had sport nutrition as well, sports psychology, sociology. And what really stuck for me in that program was the sports psychology side. And that's where I then took my master's degree. And so I completed a master's degree in kinesiology, which is the study of like movement. But my specialization or my focus was sports psychology. So, and then my thesis ended up getting cut short because I convocated in June of 2020. COVID struck up just as I started data collection for my thesis in like February. I went through 3 athletes and completed data collection. And this was on mindfulness training in youth athletes. I can send you details later if you want, or chat about it on another time. But essentially, how does cognitive and mental fatigue impact performance, and can a mindfulness intervention help mitigate that? So I did 3 research participants, finished data collection, was still recruiting, and then COVID hit, and I ended up just taking all of the work that I had done prior to data collection and writing a knowledge translation piece and graduating with that in June. So that was a load of fun.
And now you're going back to school. You're going to be going back to school. For a PhD in what field?
I just applied for a couple different programs. It's all going to be like, my intention is to stick with sports psychology or sociology of sport, very closely related, but or sport philosophy is another option that I'm looking at. But there were a couple programs that I applied to. One that I would really be interested in getting is a research study on the sociological impacts of doping in sport. So I'd love to get that. It's essentially just a qualitative analysis of how does the presence of doping, this is from me reading the abstract of like what the researchers want to look into. How does the presence of doping in a sport impact the way that athletes approach and interact with their own like social construct of that sport? So like, how do you react to when you like lose a race knowing that maybe someone is taking some substance, and like how does that change your mindset and how you approach sport and training? It's really interesting. It's really difficult. I was never at that level where like I was competing against people who were maybe doping. Actually, I can't say that. I probably was competing against people who
can't know,
but I was never at the level where like there was any reason for me to even consider it. Like I was,
But, it makes me. It's funny. It makes me think of the world of bodybuilding, because it definitely has changed the landscape as it's become more prominent and more people are open and talking about it online. It's definitely changed the sport and how people approach it and how they feel about their own progress as they're kind of going into it. But I don't want to get into the doping conversation, because
exactly.
A lot of our people listening are between 45 and 80 years old, and it's not we're not for these things, but I don't think it's a topic that would be valuable. But let's go back to the psychology component. So as you and I know, when you coach someone, the psychological component is a huge factor in determining if they're going to be able to have success in whatever goal they've set for themselves. And so through kind of your studying and your schooling, and ultimately you've coached a lot of people as well, like how has you find that the role that it plays, and what are things that people should be on the lookout for as they kind of set a goal and are like, oh yeah, Nick, I'm going to do this 100% perfectly the whole time for 6 months straight. I'm never going to go off track.
Yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, that's just like, it's not that it's impossible. It's just like a very unreasonable expectation to put on someone. Yeah, I mean, I'm in general a lot softer on my clients than they are on themselves, I think, is a really big takeaway. So generally, you are going to be your biggest critic. And when you want to foster like these success mindsets or like these positive mindsets, there's a delicate balance between leveraging these expectations that you have on yourself to accomplish these goals, but also giving yourself the space and understanding to know when something is insurmountable and you have to give yourself that leeway to allow yourself to like step away from that goal or like extend that timeline or whatever is causing you to not be able to achieve that. Because burnout happens in elite athletes, and these guys and girls are top of their game, right? And burnout is primarily psychological. Like physiological burnout is a lot harder to hit than psychological. And a lot of it is just the pressure that you put on yourself to achieve these outcomes, specifically outcomes, not just like process versus outcome goals. Very different. I'll just lay that out there, get back into that. But setting these like outcome goals that shit happens, and the way that you adapt and react or respond as opposed to react, the way you adapt and respond to these negative events is really like the biggest thing that you can take control of. And it's, I'm so relaxed with my clients, and if something isn't happening, they're not achieving a goal, and they tell me why, and they're pouring their heart out at me about all these obstacles that have come in their way, like my go-to response is like, well, how can we move around this? Like, how can we adapt what you are trying to do to make it so that this isn't holding you back? Or how do we like just put that to the side? Like maybe it's not even an issue. It's a non-issue for a lot of instances where you can just put that to the side and be like, just don't worry about it. It's fine.
Yeah.
You just keep stay on your track, stay on your path, compartmentalize that and focus up. But I mean, I'd say that's my generic response, but it's always nuanced. I mean, yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
I don't have
and
any
a lot
systems.
of times people stress about things that they can't control, right? Mm-hmm. And it's very like, that's the reason why I'm so excited to have you on the team, because that's exactly our coaching philosophy. It's like life happens. Like I always say, life's going to kick you in the butt. That's kind of my expression, but life's going to kick you in the butt quite a few times as you try to, reach certain outcomes in terms of body composition, trying to prep for a race or something like that. And we are our worst critic.
It's all about how you adapt and respond after as well. Like, shit's going to beat you down. And the adage of like, whatever, get knocked down 6 times, stand up 7, whatever, that's from Rocky, I think. Like that is the success, right? It's not necessarily achieving that outcome. It's like, on that path or on that journey towards that goal, every time you get set back, like you get back up and you get back on that path. Maybe you set yourself a 6-month goal and it takes you 1.5 years to get there, 2 years, 5 years to get there. It doesn't matter. Like that timeline is irrelevant as long as you stay chugging along on that same path. That's what really matters.
Yeah. So I have a question for you, and it's going to turn, this was more to kind of like introduce you to our people that you're going to be a coach, but I definitely, I want to dive into some like nerdy stuff with you. But first, for the people listening, like Nick will be a body recomposition coach as well. And for our program, there's 3 phases. The first phase is body recomp, so losing the body fat and building lean muscle. The second phase is reverse dieting, speeding up your metabolism post-fat loss. And the third phase is non-mandatory, but it's a fun phase. It's like a lot of our members, once they have their new body, they're like, damn, I want to run a 5K. I want to do a marathon. I want to do a triathlon, or I want to do an Ironman, whatever it may be. Then that phase will always be with Nick, right? He'll do the body recomposition, the reverse dieting as well, but the endurance phase will always be with Nick. And you've trained quite a few of our clients actually to prep. I know Dr. Dan, I think he's coming up on his triathlon in June.
2 weeks.
In
Yeah.
2 weeks. So I'm excited for him. So yeah, you've
Motor
already
City.
coached a lot of our people. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a part of me wanted to fly in and kind of do it with him, but
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not gonna be available, but that would have been fun. I'll try to eventually, maybe one day we can do a fit vegan triathlon, like a sprint or an Olympic, and train people for it.
Do it all together. I'd be keen. That would be so fun.
Yeah. So now that I've kind of said these things of what you're going to do, you mentioned earlier outcome goals versus process driven goals. What did you mean by that?
Yeah. So like an outcome goal is essentially like an objective at the end. Like this is
like lose 20 pounds.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm going to lose 20 pounds. I'm going to do this event or whatever it is. Whereas like a process goal is sort of like a stepwise process that you can use to like bring yourself towards an outcome goal if you want, but it doesn't even have to be that. It can be like setting a goal for like, I want to every day, like do my 5 minutes of meditation, or every day I'm going to monitor my HRV, which is probably something no one here is going to do, but like,
oh, actually, you'd be surprised. We get a lot of Whoop users in the program.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And just like taking like a specific data point or a specific action that you want to take and creating like a healthy habit or something out of that. But these process goals are like the goal itself is just doing the thing that brings you closer to your outcome goal. So it's just the means to an end, but like in the process goal, the end is just doing the thing itself. So it's a lot less stressful on yourself, and it's a great way of just like tricking your brain into getting those little like positive dopamine hits, because every day that you get your 5,000 steps or you track your HRV, you're like, oh, I did it for today. Good job, me. That's accomplishing your goal for the day. So
yeah, and that could be like doing the exercise, sticking to the nutrition, or trying to
improve exactly. Your sleep. Yeah, the nutrition would be a big one for fit vegan athletes. Yeah,
and it's also a part of it. Like if we're being transparent, it's undeniable that you do get the outcome goal if you focus on those little process goals. Because if you just keep showing up with those key actions that are like that make the biggest difference in your transformation or in your training, it's kind of undeniable that if you just continue to do those, at one point you will get to the place that you want to.
Yeah, exactly. And even if you don't get to that, even if you don't lose 20 pounds, you only lose 17 and a half pounds, putting that process in, like doing all of those little things every day and like creating those healthy habits, like sort of plays into what I was saying before. Like maybe it's not 6 months, maybe it's 12 months to get to that 20 pounds, right? But now you have all of these systems in place that you've sort of like acquired just from having these little goals that have now like created these positive habits or positive healthy habits. And you can still feel good about having accomplished that 17 and a half pounds, even though you didn't get that specific outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a part, like I did a podcast on this, but getting people to detach themselves from the timeline. And so like, on average, we get people to lose, 20 pounds in 4 months, but there's going to be people that are coming in that are like severely under eating, that have some of the unhealthiest habit, that are not exercising, and that it'll take them a little bit longer to kind of get into the habit of like doing some form of resistance training 3 times a week. It'll get them into like a little bit longer to kind of like get, start preparing their own food versus kind of eating out. And so like, that process can take longer, but it's just like, I don't know for you, but like I personally don't care about the timeline as long as I reach the goal that I want. Like if you set a goal, you kind of care to it to a certain extent. And if you care enough about the goal, I care more about the goal than like about how fast I get there. And my little story is like Tony Robbins, like meeting him and doing the private event and taking a photo with him. I thought I would do it in 2 years of reading his first book when I was 15 years old. Sweet. Took me 15 years to do it. Do I care that it took me 15 years? Nah, I did it.
Yeah,
Right? Like
totally.
I
Got it
now
done.
have that experience. And so, yeah, when you care about the goal, the timeline kind of becomes a little bit irrelevant, and you kind of get to focus on like you said, those key actions that'll help you like to build that habit into your life.
Yeah, and that's really what you're doing it for, anyways. Like doing an Ironman or whatever. Like there's glory in coming across that finish line, and there is like so many clients that I've spoken to after doing something like that. They're like ecstatic, like they're just so elated from this experience. But at
Yeah.
the same time, like everything that you take from that finish line is just from the like 12, 24 months of work that you put in prior to that. And that's really what's carrying you forward. It's just that
Yeah.
moment is the culmination, and that is like the like symbolic end of the work that you did.
Yeah.
But that just, if that timeline is longer, that just means that that work has more and more value too. So like 10 years after, it just carries that much more weight. It carries 3 years of weight instead of 6 months of weight, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I love that. It's reframing. It's like it's slaying the dragon. It's like you play video games, for example, right? Like you do all go through all these challenges, and at the end there's like the big boss, and you kind of finish the game, and then you're like, whoa, I finished the full game, right? I completed that level. Bear with me, it's been a while since I played video games, but like,
Yeah,
I
no, I can
completed
tell.
the level, and then you're like, oh wow, like I was able to kind of like learn all of these tools and these tricks. And as you learn to show up for your training and nutrition, you learn how to deal with stress, you learn how to deal with like being sick, going on vacation. That will serve like compounding benefits over the rest of your life. But you're right, like that Ironman race, or when you cross the finish line, it's like, yeah, I did it. But it doesn't last that long, to be honest with you. Like to me,
No,
like
not at
as soon
all.
as I
Yeah.
passed it, I was like, thank God it's done.
Yeah.
My whole body.
In the exact moment, 24
Yeah,
to
yeah.
48 hours later, though, you felt a little different.
Yeah, you're like, oh yeah, cool, I did it. This is exciting and it's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, in a moment, I felt like death. I couldn't even
Yeah.
bend down to like. I remember I dropped my water bottle after the first half Ironman in Victoria,
Yep.
dude. I don't know if you've ever seen those videos of guys wearing like super tight pants and it can't bend their legs, and they're trying to like hold on to things to bend down with straight legs to grab it. That was me after the Ironman. I could not bend my legs; everything was hurting. Um,
Hell yeah.
but not to get too distracted, but there's another component is like when you complete a 5K, you're like, ooh, 10K, ooh, half
Yeah.
marathon. And so it's like when you set those big goals, I feel like most people that are driven to do some of these things will also have the personality to be driven to do more once they kind of accomplish that goal.
Oh, for sure. I think a large part of that too is like as you are entering this space of health and fitness and sort of realizing what your body is actually capable of, like that's an empowering moment when
It's
you
wild.
recognize you're like, man, like 6 months ago, like running a mile would have killed me. Now I can run 3 miles, 5 kilometers, and what else can I do? Like, this is crazy. This is like, I remember feeling that still. Like, I still see photos sometimes of my like first 10K, and I had these like Walmart like long shorts that were like past my knees. I had a hydration pack on, like a big Camelback,
For
and
10K.
for 10K, yeah, and these like Walmart running shoes, and I had my like long high school hair that's like whoa, like big, like,
Yeah.
and I'm just like oh, like suffering. It, like I did pretty okay, like as far as time, but like
Yeah.
finishing that, like I still like even though like my timeline is all so blurred and I have such a hard time thinking back of like things in the past, I still remember like that entire summer after that race in April, me and my buddy Tyler, like we did it together and we're like, oh my God, this is crazy. Like, what else can we do? We did like 10, 15 races that year. I ended up doing my first half marathon that same September because I was like, I can do a 10K. I could probably run half a marathon. And then like the next year, I was like, I can do a marathon, of course. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, no problem. And just like everything was just like, I'm gonna do this and this. There was like a race series here on the island every 2 weeks, and I was
Yeah.
just like, oh my God, I'm gonna do all. And they were all on the trails, and so I was just like, boom, 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 doing them all. I was like, oh my God, like I am so powerful. This is
Yeah.
crazy. It was like leveling up, leveling up that character. I was like, oh.
And I think that's something that's important that you mentioned is like, that's kind of what I want for everyone is like, once you kind of get to that place where you're like, damn, my body can do this, you kind of tap into like a massive reservoir of potential that you never really knew was there. And then you're like, whoa, because a lot of people have, self-defeating, will kind of beat themselves down, self-sabotage, not believe in themselves, and or don't think that they deserve to kind of have these things. But man, once you tap into like, again, I want to lose 20 pounds, I want to run a mile, I want to run 10 kilometers, I want to build muscle, I want to do pull-ups and push-ups, whatever it may be. Once you kind of like get that thing and you go like, whoa, this is something that I literally thought was impossible for me to have, and then you do it, your mind just blows up. You're like,
yo, yeah,
whoa, what else can I take on? And then it leaks into other areas, right? You're like, well,
big time.
What can that look like in my relationship? Can I find my dream partner? What does that look like in my career, in my business, or my finances? Like, yeah, do you find that with yourself and the people that you kind of worked with? It's like, it starts to leak into other areas.
Big time. And it's also like, it is such a trope, like the like athlete mentality, right? And that's why these like, I don't know what to call it, Fortune 500 companies, I don't know, but like you look at like athletes like post retirement from sport, and like they're sought after in business because they have cultivated this mindset of like they're unstoppable. And I mean, when you're an elite athlete, you're very unstoppable. But like nothing has like exactly yourself.
That's how I feel.
But like it's not like being able to hold a hockey stick or shoot a basketball translates directly to you being able to like manage a whatever like multi-million-dollar hedge fund or something. Like it doesn't translate directly. The thing that translates directly is like how you've grown and what you've learned mentally and how you've learn to apply yourself to like a very specific context, and that's all that you're translating. And so when you use physical activity in your life to cultivate this and to like grow, because you're forcing yourself like, okay, like I have to go to the gym 3 days a week now, like, oh, I really don't want to do it, but like it's part of my program, I'm going to do it. And like just creating those little like processes, like those little process goals of like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. You train yourself. And as you train yourself, you then recognize like, oh, I can do more. And you start taking things on that suddenly you're taking on the entire world and you can't be stopped. And it's great.
Yeah. And I feel like that's why like, I was thinking of like Kobe as you're kind of bringing up, like LeBron James. A lot of the very successful athletes are able to be successful once they retire. LeBron's not retired yet, but he's about to be able to be successful in business after, because that mindset piece, you can't teach that. You have to acquire that through being knocked down over and over again and kind of getting yourself back up. And then the reason why I translate to, like I said, managing a hedge funds, running up a company or whatever it may be, because those are skills. Like you can acquire skills, you can learn skills, but that mindset piece is the hardest thing because it's so uncomfortable. Learning a skill, I can be boring to a certain extent. You can like read and take courses and kind of do all this shit, but building your mindset is so uncomfortable because you spend 3 hours on the bike. There's so many things to that are hard. It's like, your legs, but then it's painful and you have to continue to push through the pain. To a certain extent, there's boredom, at least if you don't have Netflix going on. Like there's so many components right? But there's so many components to being able to kind of do the redundant work over and over again. You need a specific type of mind that's been built over time.
Totally. Yeah. And using physicality as a way to unlock that is so good because
it's a controlled environment.
Some dissociative shit that goes on too. But it's a controlled environment. It's very like you driven. And you can just like force yourself through it. And you're just like, no, I'm just going to do this. I only have like one more set to go. All right, I'm just going to do it because there's my accountability coach is like going to see if I don't do it as well. But I love that.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm just thinking about I'm getting heated up in a good way. It's true though, because if that mental resilient piece is the thing that keeps people fit and healthy
Yeah.
and happy. And I feel like there's two ways to build it. One is you can go into a controlled environment where you choose to challenge yourself with something that's hard that you don't necessarily know how to do or like want to do, like exercise and monitoring your nutrition, being able to manage your stress. You don't make stupid decisions for your nutrition. Or another way to build it is just for life to beat the shit out of you and you kind of
Yeah.
learn to deal with it, which is it's way harder.
Yeah.
I just think of like Jen with her cancer, like life through that. There's no training manuals on how to be a caregiver, how to deal with these situations. But I wholeheartedly believe that I was able to stick around because of how hard I trained in my life and how mentally I've challenged myself, that I was like, oh, this is just another thing,
Just another
that,
challenge.
yeah, that mentally I can handle. I just need to learn the skills of how to manage it basically and handle it.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's a controlled way to build a stronger mindset without actually getting hurt by like life making you lose your house or your partner getting sick or kind of being thrown these really hard curveballs.
Yeah, it's a lot lower risk.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, significantly lower risk, and yeah,
Cheaper. For sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I'd pay for a gym membership any day over any of those like big life obstacles.
Oh my God. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And mindset is like, it's such an interesting phenomenon too, because you can pull like, I mean, just look at like any Paralympic athlete who doesn't have, even if they have a congenital, I guess, like it doesn't matter whether, like congenital being like they were born with it, whether they have like whatever they're working with, like the mindset and the attitude of everyone there is so good. I mean, everyone is there to like work hard, grind. I mean, I don't know if you've ever watched the triathlete with no arms, and like he jumps into he swims open water just with like no arms, literally no arms.
Yeah. Like a dolphin, I guess.
Yeah, basically, yeah, just like dolphin kicks and like has to like rotate every time he like breathes. But like you were saying, like people don't necessarily choose that, but they gain the resilience from it. We just have the option. And so it's a lot easier for us to just be like,
complain.
I'm not going to do that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I fall to that too. I fall to that every time. I look at the pool and I'm just like, I don't want to swim today.
Yeah.
But
blessed with his two long ass arms and his paddle for hands.
Yeah, exactly. With this wingspan, like it should be like no problem. And just like up here is all it is. Like I can swim. It's just up here that I need to like. Yeah,
I feel like there is a component to that, right? I just tell people like life kind of hands you like a hand of cards, right? You think of poker, just because Ivy's in that world. Like if you think of poker, you have a hand, and like you can bitch and moan about it all you want, but that's the hand you have. So you can bluff your way through it, or if it's a good one, shit, good for you. But it's not always going to be a good one. Yeah. And I feel like people that kind of weren't as blessed in their life and that have made peace with it, they're just like, damn, those are the cards that I have. Great. Let me just do the most that I can out of it. Right. Yeah. It kind of becomes it turns into I don't want to say a blessing in a way, but it kind of does. It turns into like a mental blessing when people come at peace with their situation. It's just like, shit, let me just live life to the fullest and do the best that I can. This guy, Nick, what's his name? He's an author. He doesn't have, I don't think he doesn't have
so
arms.
Bad with names.
Yeah, but he doesn't have arms. He doesn't have legs. I think he just has like one small foot, basically. He doesn't have limbs technically. Yeah. Man, dude, skydiving, bungee jumping, swimming in the ocean, snorkeling, married with a wife and kids, and living his best life. And it's so inspiring because he came to peace with it, and he's like, I'm gonna make the most out of it that I can.
Yeah, dude, 100%. And yeah, you maximize the position that you're in. Like you just whatever you've been given, like that hand of cards or whatever, you do everything that you can with it possible.
Yeah. Cool. I feel like we went on a tangent, but usually that's just me and you talking. It just happens to be recorded for a podcast.
Yeah, pretty much.
So let me kind of like tie it back in. I think people have a good understanding now, but what would you say for the people that are going to be coming into the program that want to work with you, either for like endurance sports or for body composition? What type of coach are you? What is your kind of like your training philosophy?
Yeah. I mean, I said that I'm like softer on people than they are on themselves. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I don't want you to succeed. Like, I still have the expectation that, like, I'm not going to reprimand you for missing a workout or eating like an extra like meal because you were hungry and like going over your caloric intake. Um, but my expectation is going to be like, okay, you messed up. That's fine. How are we going to fix that? Right. And I think that that's very much like what the Fit Vegan Athlete program is trying to do, and
Yeah.
like the reflexivity of it. Like, I am very, I'm all about reflexivity. Like, I want people to like put in the work first of all, but when you either put in the work or you don't, I want you to like look back and like what went well, what didn't go well, like what in me, like this is what I'd have to do every day that I don't go to the pool. What in me led me to this decision, and what should I be doing to
Yeah.
help keep myself or keep yourself in line and aligned with what you want to accomplish. Um, and like that's pretty much like my philosophy in general. I think is that there's, I hate this saying, but I don't know a better way to say it. There's more than one way to skin a cat.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you know a different way? Like, how do other people say that and
I don't
convey
know,
the
but
same idea? Yeah,
it's
okay.
basically that. Yeah, it's there's
It just makes me
there's
feel like
different ways
whenever I
to
hear that.
eat an apple, cut a banana. I don't know, just right, whatever. I'm trying to find a vegan. I'm trying to find a vegan version of it.
Yeah,
I say you can. Yeah, you can eat a. There's
there's
different
more than
ways
one
to
way
eat
to
a.
skin an apple.
Exactly. Yeah, there's different ways to do it.
Yeah, there's got to be some navigational
We just
something,
make it
but
up, man. I
yeah,
always use. I've never heard
yeah,
anyone
true.
use this, but people say I went cold turkey. I say I went cold tofurkey, and people love it. So we just
That's
make up our
yeah,
own expressions.
that's like a cute little like veganism.
Exactly.
Cold tofurkey. It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like there's so many different ways that you can achieve the same like outcome, and like I was saying with um before, just like having like a mindset that's more conducive to like um chasing down these like process goals and like working towards that. So like a process oriented perspective. Um, yeah, I would say that like I'm always forgiving as long as people recognize that they can do better,
Yeah.
and that's like at the end of the day, like that's all that we're trying to cultivate with people, right? Is like recognizing the capacity and like the ability and the power that people have within themselves, and helping them unlock that and like bring that forward into their life, and using their own inherent power to like grow and learn. So I
Yeah.
think
No, I
that's a
love
good
that.
little.
And obviously, and just for the people listening as well, like Nick is a tremendous coach. We're very lucky to have him. I've trusted him with my training for almost 7 years now, for a really long time. And Fit Vegan is my baby. It started from a pure mission, and I wouldn't bring someone on the team that I didn't believe in. And ultimately, if I'm willing to spend my own money on Nick to hire him throughout these years, like I obviously trust him to be in the program and provide good coaching for our clients, because I'm sure I'm not always the easiest client to work with. I'm very disciplined for
Yeah,
the
yeah,
most
yeah.
part. And I miss a few swim workouts here and there throughout the years. It's freaking cold outside. Nick is like, yeah, in California. He's like, oh, you're outdoor pool. You're in California. Like, Nick, it's cold. I'm gonna do my swim workout another day.
Yeah, 100%. And I have the hardest time calling you out on that because I have to call myself out on that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
so I
also
found I
thank
found
you.
I found the weak point is the swimming.
Yeah,
But I'm a
exactly.
good swimmer. It's my best one out of the three. I'll just
It
so
is.
that's yes, that's
Yeah,
why I let it slide. But all this to say, like, we're very blessed to have Nick. I'm really happy to have him on the team, and whomever is going to be working with Nick is going to be very lucky. He was teaching with us at our Seattle workshop that we just had before the
so much
Planted
fun.
Expo. Had a blast, and we're going to try to do more in-person workshops. And yeah, Nick's a fellow BC Vancouverite from Vancouver Island. So you live like a few hours away from Coach Sarah. So you guys are very close.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I've been to her lake. Not her lake, but the lake she lives on. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess you did an open water swim together.
No thanks.
Yeah, it's extra cold. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It
that
is
sounds
something about it being cold, right? It's just
it's a
a
deep
different
lake.
vibe to get you to get into it. It's not like an ice bath where you'll be like, oh, I'll be in there for 3 minutes. Like, no, you're
Yeah,
swimming
it's
for
not
like
like
45, 50 minutes.
yeah, that's disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's no fun at all. Yeah. But thank you for the kind words.
Yeah, you're welcome. So
Appreciate
yeah,
that.
man, any last messages that you would like to kind of pass off to the people listening before we wrap it up for today?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't think so. Not at this point yet. I mean, I think it's gonna be loads of fun. I'm excited to uh, have some fun times with this demographic, like focusing more on the body recomp side as well. Um, but I'm also just like so stoked to be in a space now where it's all plant based. Like my coaching for triathlon is not like a plant based. Like I encourage it, and a lot of the resources and materials that I provide are like biased towards plant based.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't do and like I haven't done any specific work pertinent to like having a plant based lifestyle with clients. So yeah, I'm stoked to dive into that a little bit more and to actually have like a super fun like plant based culture to work within. It's so sweet. I love what you've been doing. I love
Yeah.
how much like good work you've done already and like the community that's already been cultivated. And I'm stoked to just jump in on that.
Yeah, man. Well, dude, we're happy to have you in. And like you said at the beginning, when you went vegan, usually you feel like the oddball. There's no community, there's no people around you,
Yo,
and no
yeah.
one understands. And now it's like, hey, we have a group and we have, we've coached almost 800 people throughout the year. So we have a beautiful community of people that are all over the world. So a lot of times, like people have someone in their town that is inside of the program that they get to meet up with and kind of, build their own little community. And so, yeah, I'm excited for your group calls and for the people that are listening that wants to work with Coach Nick. What I'm going to do, I'm going to put the link down below. So you just head over to fitvegancoaching.com. You'll be able to book your call with one of our Fit Vegan goal setting coaches, and ultimately kind of determine, what's the goal that you want, what's the journey, what is it going to look like, and ultimately you have the ability to sign up with one of our Fit Vegan coaches, and you have the ability to work with Nick. So head on to that link, book your free coaching call, and everyone, thank you very much for listening. Nick, brother, thank you for jumping on, and we'll see all of you guys in the next episode in a few days. Bye.
Thanks so much.